Okay. So as you guys requested, I'm gonna start like the grammar lessons, I guess, but no one showed except Gabby. Gabby's awesome. So today we are gonna just go through the very basic grammar structure. First of all, I want to compare with English sentence structure and Korean sentence structure and see the differences, and we're gonna start from there. Okay. So for the very basic sentence, we have subject plus verb plus object. Hey Maya. Alright. Just started. Alright. So if you look at it right here, it says I saw a bird, right? Okay. For the simplicity, I'm gonna drop the article a. Alright. So I'm just gonna go with I saw a bird. I think I mentioned this before, but Korean doesn't really have like strong distinguishing expression to see like a singular and plural. So that's the reason why we are dropping the article A right now for simplicity. And we have I saw bird. Okay. So we have subject, verb, and object, right? But Korean is a little bit different. We have 나는 새를 봤어. Okay, 나는 새를 봤어. So 나 is I, right? So we do put subject in the very front of the sentence, right? And we have particle, of course. And 새 is object, right? And also we have the particle going on right here. And 봤어. 봤어 is a verb, right? It's a past sentence of see, right? The infinite form would be 보다. Okay. But I want to point the fact out that although we have subject and object and verb, this verb and object order is quite a bit different if you compare the English one and Korean one. But also we need to focus on the structure of the sentence. Such as the English is more subject, like yeah, like subject like oriented, I guess. Okay. I also put in my note as prominent, like subject like prominent. Okay.
봤었어 is past tense.
봤었어? That's a good point. 봤었어 is like more like it's like I've seen.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But 봤어 is like simply saw. Because you want to express like some kind of experience you've done it before in the past, right? Yeah. So English is like more like subject prominent sentence. So we cannot really omit subject in English sentence, right? That would be really, really weird, right? Like saw a bird. Like who? Right. Who did see this bird, right? But Korean, like they tend to omit this subject very often. Like 밥 먹었어? Like like you're omitting like subject obviously, right?
Right.
You want to point this like your opponent person to ask, hey, did you have a meal or did you have a lunch, right? But Korean is more topic prominent. So you want to like although you omit like subject, they'll like implicitly know, they'll implicitly kind of think the subject in their heads, and they'll know like what kind of subject you're using for. So Korean is like more designed to be topic prominent. Okay. So for instance, right? So we could just say like I saw bird, but you could just say like somebody say like, oh, you know what, I saw this bird, and you could just say that like I saw that too. You're omitting the object, right? But Korean, like more likely, you have to put object for sure, since this is like topic like prominent. So instead of saying that 나는 새를 봤어, You could say that like 새를 봤어, and people will know that you actually saw this bird. Okay, so that's I think that is a very kind of significant difference between Korean and English. English is like a more subject prominent sentences, but Korean is like more like topic prominent. Okay, so those are things I want to actually emphasize for this very basic grammars. And one more thing, that English is like a more like subject plus, it goes the like following order: subject and verb and object, right? But Korean is like more like subject, object, verb, but not necessarily including subject. So it tends to be like object and a verb very often time. Okay. Of course, when it gets like more complicated, then you have to include like a more object and more verbs in it. But I want to stick with this very basic principle structure first, and maybe we can move on from this. Right? All right. So this is good. Okay. And also, Korean also like includes like particle for after the subject and after the object, right? So since we could just omit the subject when you make like very simple sentences, I'm gonna just focus on like how do we like what kind of particle should we use for the various objects for the choices. Okay, that's the only one thing we're gonna focus on today. Right? Okay. So we're not considering about the subject here anymore. We only have object and a particle and verb. Okay, very simple sentence. Okay? Very like a one-dimensional sentence right here. All right. So what kind of verb we're gonna use? We're gonna use like only 3 verbs today. All right. One will be eat, but also ate. We're gonna go with the ate like past tense, and like. Okay, and this is like a present actually like. And this, we're going to go with the watch and see and look. And we're going to go with like past tense, which we just utilized from the like, previous example right there. Okay, so we have eat is 먹다, right? The infinite form would be 먹다, right? And we could change to the past sentence, which is 먹었다, right? 먹었다, right? 먹었다. Okay. So what we actually had, we're gonna try to use 사과 and 밥. Okay. 사과 and 밥. What is 사과? 사과 is apple. Very good. And 밥 is a rice or meal, right? Okay. So only difference, I think the in order to put the right particle, I think we have to see the word right before the particle. Okay. If the letter right before the particle has 받침, and we use the particular the particle, and if the letter right before the particle doesn't have the 받침, then that makes difference. Okay. All right. So the first one doesn't have any 받침 going on right before the particle, right? Okay. What do we use this for?
So I'm like confused between like 사과를
Mhm.
먹다 or like 사과가 먹다.
Yeah, 사과가 or
Sure.
사과를.
But when we use an object, when we use like a particle for object, we only just think about like and 를. Okay, and 를. Alright. But when we use like when 사과 becomes like subject, we have to use 가 or 가
So like when you're saying
or
like
이. 그렇지.
so when you're saying like for example the apple fell, you would use
가
사과.
or 이. Exactly.
But if you're saying I'm eating an apple, it would
Then
be
사과 becomes
을.
object, right? So we
Okay.
use like between and 를.
Okay.
Okay, so then you would never say like 사과는.
는?
That's a very good question, actually. So, if Maya's first example, what if 사과 actually fell?
Mm-hmm.
Then you say 사과 is subject, right?
Yeah.
사과 was like right here, placed right here, it just fell, right?
Right.
So you're showing the 사과's action right there,
Exactly.
right? So you say 사과가, okay? But when you try to describe like apple, like I say, like this apple is so pretty. Oh, this apple looks so delicious. Then we have to go with 사과는. But I'm gonna go with the next class.
Oh.
We're gonna like just go over the how do we use the particles, the proper particles for objects.
Okay.
Okay. Only for objects. We're not going for the subject then.
Mhm.
Okay. we're omitting all the subject right here. We are using the sentence only formed by objects and verbs. Okay. So how do we use a proper particle for objects? We're gonna go with this part first. So this is like a distinguishing between 늘, 을. Okay? 늘 and 을. Okay. So when the letter right before the particle doesn't have any 받침, we stick with 늘. Okay? But if the letter right before the particle has 받침 going on like this, we use 을. Okay? 사과를 먹었다, 밥을 먹었다. But one thing is, since this 을 has like the placeholder going on, 이응, right?
바브.
Exactly. So this right before this particle letter, 받침, transferred to the placeholder. So if you want to read this, it'll be 밥을, 밥을 먹었다, 밥을 먹었다. Okay? 밥을 먹었다. Okay. So you could just put anything here you want, like any kind of menus you want. Like what about 불고기?
불고기를.
그렇지. Because doesn't really have any 받침 going on, right? 불고기를 먹었다. Okay. What about 비빔밥?
비빔밥을.
Exactly. 비빔밥을 먹었다. Because it has 받침 going on, right? 밥, right? So these are pretty crystal clear, right? So as long as the particle right before the object doesn't have any 받침, we use 를. And if it has a 받침, we use 을. Okay? It's pretty straightforward, right? But what about this kind of form?
Would it be 이은가?
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Okay, so this
So then with
this could be like translated kind of a little bit different form.
Yeah.
So what about we use like this?
Because instead of saying like I like it, it's like it's good, right?
그렇지,
So that's
Because this is actually not like. This is good. This is adjective, right? But I'm gonna change to this form. This form, this is like. Okay? Okay? Okay?
So
좋다 is a status wise. It's like good or bad. 좋다, and if you wanna like put like the opposite word, it would be 나쁘다. 나쁘다. So if you put, don't get confused. If you put this kind of form, this 운동 becomes actually subject, right? But this is just like think as like kind of like a comparison,
yeah, it's an exception.
right? But this, no, it's not even an exception. This is like subject. It's not an object at all. But if you want to, because this becomes like what the adjective, right? Right? We don't. But we want to only focus on like object plus verb, right? But this will be the like proper format right here, because we have object right here, and 좋아한다 is a like 나 너 좋아해. That means like what? I like you, right? Right? So 좋아한다 or 좋아해. 좋아해. Will be this will be like a right version of like. Okay? Okay? So in this situation, if you want to just like go through this situation really, really quick, this is like more subject plus, what is it? Subject plus adjective, right?
I mean, it's different because here, even though you're conjugating it as a verb,
That's right.
it's technically it just doesn't translate well.
Right. So this could be like subject plus adjective, I think. which is not kind of like a proper grammar format in English, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to put a be verb there too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Korean, I think you could do subject and also like adjective here. So in this case, if there's 받침, we put e. Okay? And if there's no 받침, we put 가. That's it. Okay? Because 좋다 translate as good. The status of this object, right? Or subject, right? So this could be actually like object or subject in both times because you can actually say 나는 운동이 좋다. That means it's like 나 is like subject, right? And 운동 is like object, and 이 좋다, which means we're actually we're saying that I think or me think 운동 is good, right? If you want to translate in very kind of like a literal way. But in this sort of case, like object or subject plus adjective, you go with e or ka. But we're gonna get back to this like the next class again because we're gonna go with the subject plus verb, that form. But I think we need to stick with this kind of form right here. 운동 is object, 좋아한다 is like, just like the number one format right there. So you have to put here the 받침을, right? So 그렇지, 이동을 그렇지. Okay, very good. What about here, 강아지? 그렇지, 강아지를. Very good. 강아지를 좋아한다. 강아지를 좋아해. 강아지를 좋아해. Okay. What about 선생님? 선생님 is teacher, right? 선생님? 선생님을
That's right.
선생님을
Oh,
좋아한다.
I thought we were talking about.
No, we are doing this form. Okay. What about 오빠 blank 좋아한다. 그렇지, 오빠는. Okay? Very good. Okay, next one. So we're sticking with like the same form, which we did it like previously, and 1 and 2, like ate and eat and alike. We're gonna do this time like a watched, saw, and looked. Okay. So we're gonna do this as what I watched. We're omitting subject, right?
Mm-hmm.
I watched movie. Okay. I saw friend. I saw car. I saw notebook. Okay. Why don't you guys try to fill it up? Okay, want to try this?
영화를 봤어.
그렇지. 영화를 봤어. Very good. 마야?
친구를 봤어.
친구를 봤어 or 봤다? The same thing. 봤어, 봤다. Those are the same thing. But 봤어 is like more like, the conversation form, and 봤다 is like more literal form.
Like I have seen.
No, if you want to say like if you want to like translate as I've seen friends, you have to say 친구를 봤었다 instead of 봤다. Remember? I just put it right here.
Right.
Yeah. And this
자동차를 보았다.
exactly. 자동차를 보았다, 봤어, same thing. Okay? 보았다, 보았어, 봤어, 봤다. They're all the same. But you could just stick to one form if you want to. I think I'll recommend you to stick with this one, 봤어. Okay? Because it's really easy to transform into like the polite version. Because once you add yo after the very end of the sentence, then it automatically transform to the polite version, right? So 영화를 봤어요. 영화를 봤어요. Or what this?
공책을
봤어.
봤어.
So you can say 공책을 봤어요. 공책을 봤어요. A teacher could.
Teacher.
Yeah. No, 공책 is notebook. If the teacher is asking you like how did you get that answer? How did you review that answer? How did you get how did you come up with the correct answer? You could say 공책을 봤어요. I look at my own notebook right there. Snap, right? So we can do that. So today's key point. Okay, today's key point. So there are two differences with these very principal structure foundation between Korean and English will be the order of verb and object is slightly different. English verb comes first, and object comes later. For Korean, object comes first, and verb comes later. Because Korean is more topic prominent sentences, but English is more subject prominent sentences. So you can not only omit subject, okay? Not like Korean. Korean people tend to omit a subject a lot when they talk to each other, okay? And so when we omit the subject, there is only object and a verb. But of course, we have to use the particle between after the object and the right particle, and the verb comes, right? And when we use this particle, how do we decide to choose the right particle? Particle depending on the letter right before the particle. If the letter has no Batchim, there is no Batchim, then you go with 를. And if the letter has a Batchim before the particle, then it goes 을. That's all you guys have to remember. Right. I know the grammar is always boring, but I think you guys are getting to a more advanced level because you guys analyze the sentences. Okay, so I'm just gonna do just this today. I'm not gonna go farther from now, but I think it'd be better to kind of review and do quiz next week later. I'm gonna go with
Is it next week?
no, not next week, 2 weeks later. We have spring break going on next week. So I'm gonna just write down all this kind of stuff, and I'm gonna make it blank for the particles, and you guys will be able to fill out the right particle for each sentence, and you guys are supposed to translate in English in the bottom. And also I'm gonna generate a couple of the questions, such as please write down the following sentence in Korean. But it'll be very simple, I promise, just object and verb.
So we're also practicing verb conjugation as well.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So for instance, the English sentence will be I like teacher. And all you gotta write down is 선생님이 좋다. Okay? Or 선생님을 좋아한다. I'm sorry, not 선생님. This is different form, right? We have to stick with this form, right? So if I just put I like teacher, then it'll be you don't have to put I. Yeah, but you don't have to put 나는 yet because we haven't really gone through that yet. Okay, we're gonna just go with 나는, you just omit it.
Okay.
선생님을 좋아한다. Or 선생님을 좋아해. That's all you gotta write. Okay? We're gonna go with the quiz, and hopefully, you guys will be more comfortable with this object, particle, and verb form. And maybe next class we're gonna throw more the subject into it with this form, so it'll be a more completed version. Right? Sounds good? Okay. You look tired, baby.
약간
왜?